for people who are considering making a pitch with the largest strategic companies that exist, learning from watching somebody else's pitch based on the niche that they're going after in order to be successful. Technology and innovation, very excited to see inventors, investigators, entrepreneurs. That's fascinating, really providing guidance to people and companies and firms and entrepreneurs that want to develop products that address an unmet clinical need.
What if we could quickly manufacture custom patient-centric implants that could address challenging anatomic pathologies? And what if these implants could effectively integrate the surrounding soft tissue as well? That would be a new opportunity for improved patient outcomes. Well, our next presenter, Brian McLaughlin, believes this is possible. And here's the pitch for his company, ALM Ortho.
There are currently just over 2 million people in the United States with amputations, and that's expected to double by the year 2050. There's close to 200,000 amputations that occur on an annual basis here in the United States. An estimated 1,600 military personnel who have lost a limb in service of their country.
Is there a real serious clinical need to help people that have sacrificed for our country, namely veterans who unfortunately, while the good news is they survive the injuries, often their limbs do not. And so morphing into the area of osseointegration, or basically an implant that can anchor an artificial limb from outside directly to the skeleton, as well as modifying badly deformed amputee stumps, is a huge area of need, and also I think of great service to these people that have done so much for us.
So additive manufacturing is having a fairly large impact on the orthopedic implant market. We do know that it's growing at double-digit growth rate within the marketplace. It can be applied across all indications in the world of orthopedics.
When you look at any amputee, so-called amputee-associated pain, or AAP, can be as high as 95%. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that the envelope of the soft tissue is not attached to the underlying bone.
Another aspect that really hasn't been done yet in the marketplace, and this is actually covered through some intellectual property within the company, is the soft tissue attachment. So in this case, we are looking at a device where we can attach not only to the bone and the skeletal structure, but also to the soft tissue. And really for the first time, above the knee amputees would be able to flex their muscle once again.
And I think the exciting thing about these materials is that while we know that the bone ingrowth is very prodigious, all layers of tissue now at this point, in hindsight, we can say, grow into these materials. And we've also proven that the type of ingrowth isn't just sort of a scar reaction to these materials. It's actually type 1 collagen that's highly vascularized. With additive manufactured materials, highly porous foam metals, the attachment of all these layers, we now can truly achieve, which most have not done, which is a myodesis. In other words, the muscles are actually attached back to the underlying bone structure.
The opportunities with intellectual property to integrate soft tissue with metal devices that truly give better function back to patients. I mean, that's truly exciting for the industry, and certainly an exciting opportunity for Amplify to work with ALM.
But truly to be able to come to the problem in every single angle, whether it's from the outside, the top down, the left to the right, or from inside out. So finally, truly a three-dimensional solution to a three-dimensional problem.
Fantastic. Thank you for that inspiring presentation, Brian, and a description of the technology. I'm going to start with John and give him the opportunity to ask his questions first. Is that okay, John? You all right with that?
Perfect.
Okay.
No, so first of all, awesome stuff. for helping amputees. One of my questions is, years ago they were doing a lot of hip resurfacing in Europe. Do you think because of the 3D printing that this will have a dissimilar effect to what the effects of hip resurfacing had, where the bone became necrotic, there are all sorts of issues, and bone reabsorbing away?
John, thanks for the question. Are you saying bone would resorb in the bone area, like down here with regards to the implant? Is that what you're asking with regards to stress yielding?
Correct. So if you go up on that design, look at the hip, they would put a cap over the hip stem area there that you're showing, and that bone would eventually die off because of stress shielding that was not occurring.
So one of the innovations that additive manufacturing has certainly brought is the idea that you can minimize solid material and try to maximize the integration between the bone and the implant itself. That is certainly part of this. There's no question about that. That's pretty common, if you look at devices like spinal devices right now, and I'm sure you're very familiar with devices like this, right? Where you can vary the structures, right, based on loading conditions, right? I certainly do anticipate leveraging that technology across these type of implants, and that really should help optimize the loading conditions across the bone.
Okay. So what is your ordering process or manufacturing process? So doctor has patient come in, there's a unique defect that he would like to solve that, and more fit the product to the anatomy versus making the anatomy fit the product. How do they go about ordering it, making that, getting it back, and that timeline?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's always the big question. What's the timeline? First of all, we follow FDA guidelines for customized devices, right? So FDA has really a workflow for devices. We follow the same pathway. So we developed really internal processes around that. So within the team, we have, I was previously with a group called Additive Orthopedics. They recently exited Paragon 28. The other individual on our team is Stephen Block. He used to be with Forweb, DePuy, also Tournier. He's kind of like the resident expert for custom devices here in the United States. He's done well over 4,000 devices. So between him and I, we've really optimized the process or the process workflow. It does start with a prescription at the end of the day. So this is, for customized devices, is driven by surgeon requests, right? And it follows a pretty standard and stringent process flow after that. So it starts with the prescription, request by the surgeon. Then it comes to the team of experts that say, well, we have to look at the rest of the industry, because if there is a device that can solve that problem, it's not a custom device, right? So that gets really kicked right back. If it is something that can be solved leveraging, design and additive manufacturing, then we move forward in the process. And then we essentially work and collaborate directly with the surgeon in that regard, come up with the design. Essentially, the surgeon needs to sign off on that design process before it goes to manufacturing, right? So the interesting collaboration here, ALM Ortho is really the implant company, the front-facing implant company. I'm the principal founder of Amplify Additive. We're a supply company for additive manufacturing for orthopedics. Really, there's only two companies in the United States that provide services for electron beam melting. So EBM technology is one of the powder bed fusion technologies for 3D metal printing. It was actually the first FDA cleared technology for metal 3D printing here in the United States. So we leverage that technology for customized devices primarily because the material properties coming out of the machines are superior to really any other additive manufacturing technology as a whole. So we'll help with the design. We work with a surgeon essentially to finalize that design. We get sign off from that surgeon, and then it goes to manufacturing.
And then really within 2 weeks, we have a finished device ready for surgery.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and
Sure.
thank you, Brian. Let's go to Mike now.
Sure. Brian, congratulations. I think the concept of incorporating, muscle attachment to these prosthetic, these prosthetic anchors is fascinating. I've always thought that interosseous prosthetic attachment has been absolutely also fascinating. And so this incorporates really two really significant and impactful technologies to the challenge of prosthetics. Are there any? I mean, but I didn't think, and I saw it at a recent at AAOS. I saw some models walking around with interosseous attachment. Is that solved? Because I always thought that was a big problem, managing the interosseous and keeping it, infection free.
Yeah, that's what this solves. To be honest, that's a problem right now. So if you look at the devices in the marketplace, it's really the soft tissue interface that is problematic. So this device, or we have IP that really covers this, right? With regards to soft tissue attachment, right? And this is where, the goal would probably be not even just a single material, would be multi-material. We're not there yet from a technology perspective. Because when you think of the modulus of, say, like a plastic relative to a metal, obviously different, right? And while we see really great attachment, we see this technology in itself actually provides a nice barrier to infection as a whole. So we are seeing great results with regards to the soft tissue attachments around, and it's a smaller pore size, really where the skin tissue attaches as well. We've also done mechanical fixation too. You can see as a close-up, they're actually suture holes.
Thread in there.
So for initial fixation, and they're actually designed after just a suture needle, a curvature. I think it's a number 10. So there's a curvature that's inside the device that you can only do leveraging, say like an additive manufacturing technology, right? So we're truly leveraging the technology to really optimize the IP that we're leveraging for the soft tissue integration.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Is there a bigger, so when maybe it's too early to know about 3D printed implants in general, but if anyone knows, maybe you would. Infected implants becomes an issue of biofilm forming on implants, and It seems like surface area is a driver for and biofilm. The infections live in the biofilm. The biofilm is sticky, and it's hard to eradicate. And with a lot more surface area, you probably have a lot more biofilm. Are infected 3D printed implants a bigger issue than infected standard implants? Because a lot of infections are just sort of managed chronically.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure I was prepared to answer that question, but that's a great question, Mike. That's like a whole other topic, right? That's a whole other technology. First of all, we're seeing, there are other technologies that help with wicking, that help with, obviously people have been after silver for years, and how do we integrate that? How do we code it? How do we do, there's so many thoughts there. What we do see with additive manufacturing is, you do have an added surface area, right? Obviously, that's beneficial for bone ingrowth and initial attachment and all that good stuff, right? Sure, I can certainly see the challenge with regards to if you do get an infection, that can be a challenge, without a doubt. I think a benefit that we see is that you're not using cement, right? You're not losing a lot of bone when you do that. If you do have to go through revision surgery, for instance, right? But there is this innate, so titanium all by itself, with a roughened surface, actually has really good properties for antimicrobial. And then we've been looking at other coatings. Even anodization actually has characteristics for antimicrobial, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So as an example, you can see, here's you always do a keychain, right? It's an anodized blue lattice structure, right? Which is, it's unique. You guys have seen the purple cup probably with Randy Kaken and that company, he's done that and he's got some different coatings on there as well. But I think generally speaking, that's, I don't know if that's a solved problem. That's not the problem we were necessarily trying to solve.
I get it. I get it. It's an out of left field question for you, but I thought I had the and I apologize for it. Not
had the opportunity. That's okay. It's a nice opportunity to ask a question.
I think these interosseous implants are spectacular, and I think the concept of integrating muscle attachment to them is really a significant step forward in them. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Let's go to Audrey now.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, Brian. Congratulations on what looks like a really nice material technology. I'm going to start with a couple of clinical questions. I find the amputee market to be really fascinating and, an unmet need. I mean, it's obviously it's a small market, and the bigger players out there probably don't go after this size of market. So kudos to you for using it as kind of a lead. It's an important part of the market. So I'm curious, how many have you implanted to date in amputees as customs?
It hasn't been a lot yet, right? So our lead surgeon, Ian Dickey, you saw in the video, he works at the VA in Colorado. So we are working with the VA on this currently. So the plan is to really do, when the need is arising, more customized initial, right? And then lead towards, the pathway through the FDA, which, our predicate right now is Integrum, right? And they follow the PMA pathway, which is, they actually started with the HDE pathway, which I have experience with as well, in my last company. And then ultimately they follow the PMA pathway. So not a tremendous amount, because I think the understanding, the expectation around these is it's just not widely pushed. To your point, it's a market that's really underserved. There are select facilities here in the United States that work with Integrum right now. We are aware of a number of them. Interestingly enough, we were reached out to by one facility. I'm not going to go into names, but because they need to do a revision surgery that includes an Integrum, and there aren't companies that are that familiar with being creative around finding a solution for something like that. And it's even more unique because it's a scenario where this patient actually has a total hip replacement. So you have a stem, you have above the amputee, and you've got concern about, bone and quality of bone and amount of bone, and how do you deal with that with regards to providing a revision. So what's interesting is that they reached out to us. So we're somewhat getting known is that we can deal with some of these challenging scenarios, leveraging certainly additive manufacturing, but there's a design approach, obviously, and an experience that we bring to the table that is pretty unmatched in the marketplace.
That's great. I'm just curious, what the timing is from implantation to, movement or weight bearing, what that has looked like so far.
Well, yeah, as you know, I mean, initial loading on a bone is good, certainly for integration, right? So when you have a device like this, you want the soft tissue to heal. I mean, you start to see really good data, really in a matter of days for the soft tissue with the skin. We're actually working on an IP enhancement that actually heals faster, leveraging vacuum. That we've already shown that to be the case on a pig model, which is great. So we've done that. So the University of Maine, actually here in Bangor, Maine, Orno, but it's up north. To the point I think Mike said, you're out in the middle of nowhere. That's but they have a great veterinary program, and they also have a biomedical engineering program. And Dr. Ian Dickey is an adjunct professor at the university, and he's taken part in this patent as well. So we have some additional work going on to enhance the speed of the healing at the surgery site. But as far as the initial loading goes, I mean, a lot of that has to do with, just that you can load it pretty quickly. And when I say pretty quickly, I don't have a specific time frame. I think, this is where I miss Ian. Ian was supposed to be with us this evening because he's the clinician who has dealt directly with patients. He unfortunately had his surgery on his eye. He wasn't able to be here tonight. So I can probably answer a little bit more detail, maybe after this.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Audrey. And again, congratulations, Brian. My question's around, and I'm just knowledgeable enough to be dangerous on this topic, but there are multiple models for thinking about patient-centric and customized printing, ranging from devices that you place in hospitals or ASCs, devices that you place regionally, or centralized manufacturing. And each of those are a different kind of business model. In some cases, like at a hospital, you're going to sell them the manufacturing unit and you're going to provide a service model. In other cases, you have centralized manufacturing, you're going to just charge for the implant. So how are you going about thinking about this?
We've thought a lot about that. So, I mean, the specific model is really, Lima with HSS, because that's really the one that's highlighted in the industry. And HSS has done a lot of work. They actually have an EBM machine in the basement of the hospital, right? So one of the challenges to that model is this technology is not the easiest to run, quite frankly. So it's a niche knowledge base. I worked for the technology company actually a number of years ago, helping to introduce this third generation EBM platform here in the United States. So we've got, kind of this carnal knowledge of the technology. Regionally, I think makes the most sense, quite frankly, if it's close to a facility. I do like that idea. There have been some companies who have really kind of talked about, 3D printing and kind of like what are those, like the containers, shipping containers almost, right? That you can kind of drop into a location and kind of build this facility relatively quickly. But ultimately, what do you really need to deliver a final clinical device, right? So 3D printing in itself is phenomenal. We can do a lot of things with it, and even having a machine at the hospital is great. But is that hospital really going to have every 3D printed device, I will tell you, still needs some sort of subtractive or secondary processing, whether it's machining of a surface, whether it's a cleaning and passivation potentially, maybe you're doing a secondary coating on it, whatever it may be. But those are validated processes that I don't ever really see right now a hospital doing, right? It's just not a model or a fit to go into the basement of the hospital. Maybe over time, but I think that in general that becomes a challenge. So you need to leverage your manufacturing and design experts to help you there, right? So we've really looked at, Amplify, I mean, we are a group, we have EBM technology under our roof. We've got designers, obviously we've got, experience with the process. We don't have everything under one roof, but I can tell you that is the plan, right? The plan is to really have, and I call it Amplify 2.0 is my vision. It is truly to have the key technologies for developing and designing and manufacturing devices under one roof, including all the necessary processes to deliver that ultimately to the clinical setting. It's not widely done. I mean, customs is the big guys are not doing it widely. And in fact, we've talked to a number of, facilities and clinicians and maybe the best company set up to do it might be a Stryker because they've invested so much in additive manufacturing. And yet we still hear, that their time to market for this type of solution is very long. We're talking 4, 6, maybe even months, if not longer. So that's when you see the big guys, not really jumping on it from that perspective. I mean, they have a ton of inventory, so I get it, right? There's a challenge that you're facing, the inventory challenge relative to the market, shift to more patient-centric devices. So I think a regional play, in my mind, is the right way to go. We're here in the Northeast, but honestly, some of the first surgeries we've done were in Stanford. So that's on the West Coast. We're on the East Coast.
Well, I appreciate your run of the landscape, right? I agree with you that setting this up in hospitals, then you wind up having all kinds of validation issues, all kinds of control issues, and who's ultimately responsible? Is it the hospital? Is it you? There are all kinds of questions. So thank you very much for that. So now it's time to turn to the audience and ask the audience what they think. From what you've heard so far, is this business opportunity a winner, game changer? Do they need to go back to the drawing board? Are they somewhere in the middle? And we'll have people vote now, and then we'll come back in just a moment and look at the results. Well, that should be encouraging for you. So 80% of the people in attendance said that this is either a winner and a game changer or could change the standard of care. So that should be pretty encouraging for you. 20% said it still needs more work. So let's go back around one more time. I'll start this time with Mike. You have a closing comment as we finish up our session this evening?
I don't think I do. I think technology is so impactful to really an underserved segment, I think, of the market. That it's a commendable effort. I'll be curious to see how you take this technology, the idea of attaching muscles, and do other things with it, whether it's oncology implants for other places, scapula, other bones. That'll be interesting to watch. Yeah, I saw the scapula over your shoulder, I think, or in the video.
Yeah.
But I think that'll prove to be very interesting. So
fantastic.
Well done,
Audrey.
Yeah, I too will be interested to watch where this goes. I'm curious if you've got already or plans for any IP protection around the material or the manufacturing process or the shapes that you end up making.
The IP is specific to the transcutaneous application, and it actually has different types of lattice structure approaches to it. So it's pretty robust with regards to what we're using it for. And again, we are enhancing that with further intellectual property through university through clinical study, animal models specifically. So it's going to continue because we do have researchers at the University of Maine who are submitting for SBIR to continue the research on this particular type of application.
Perfect. Thanks.
Fantastic. And John?
So again, echoing what everyone said of how fabulous this could be for amputees and looks that way. And expanding on what Mike asked about the opportunity in oncology, and I was thinking about it also for diabetic patients, whether it's fingers or other form of amputee, since it can be attached onto the bone and help the skin grow. So have you pursued any of that or looked into that, or something that you're planning on doing?
With regards to diabetics, I'll have to defer to Ian on that one. I can follow up with him and with you. I don't specifically know. I know that's obviously there's a challenging cases in general. Dealing with Charcot foot previously in kind of a past life. That stuff is really difficult. But 3D printing has been leveraged for customized devices, across the board, from additive ortho to 4Web to Restore 3D to you name it. The company's kind of out there doing that stuff. But oncology is a great opportunity, I do believe, right? I think, generally speaking, there aren't a lot of companies 100% focused on that. You got Oncos, it's about all that I know, except for, just onesies, twosies here and there. They're 100% focused on that. We've shown we can address that market. We've already done that. We just shipped actually we got a case tomorrow for a 2/3, the bottom 2/3 of a humerus for a patient, for instance, who the surgeon actually took out the bottom part of their humerus because he was worried that the tumor was growing too fast. So instead of, usually you do that at the same time, you take it out and then put the implant in. He actually took out the tumor and then closed the patient up. The patient's really just been sitting, waiting for the implant. So we sped this one to market as efficiently as we could. The opportunity in various markets, right? This is why if you look at our, even the pitch, the video, we talk about, the future potential of where we're going with this, right? Patient-specific, needs, infrastructure, patient-specific needs, the design, understanding, the workflow, all of that stuff. We've not only done that here, we've done it in past companies, and then not too many people can say that. So we drive through our experience. We have the infrastructure in place, validated machines. We print 3D printed, we print FDA cleared devices already for other clients. So we've not only helped develop the market, we've also rebuilt it in our backyard. So it's a great opportunity for those who kind of know what they're doing. Is what I would say. Be careful, right?
Well, Brian, thank you. And I'll just close by saying I'm particularly interested in the basic biology and understanding what's going to happen at the interfacial zones as you think about the soft tissue, because the way soft tissue behaves around interfacial zones of titanium and stainless steel is very different than the way bone behaves. So there'll be some other biologic nerds like me out there who will be keen to see that evidence. So as you develop your story, publishing, presenting that evidence will certainly be very helpful. So fantastic. I'll close by saying, every time we have these sessions and these shows, I learn a great deal. I hope that those of you who are interested in contacting Brian and ALM, you can see their contact information here. You can reach out on the web. And we thank you again, Brian, for your energy and for participating tonight.